actual participant who sits in front of a dealing terminal every single day. She heads the sales trading desk at Emkay Global Financial Services. Manjiri Muzumdar joins us right now on the show. Manjiri, thanks so much for joining in. Excuse me if I've given the description wrongly, but you would be best placed because you've seen the before and you've seen the now over the last 3 days. Are you a happy participant in the current closing auction session, or do you believe that there are some chinks in the armor?
So I think the framework is really very good, and the way I look at it is we have to go that way because that is where the entire Asian markets are. Every market has closing auction. So the framework is very good. Yes, liquidity is a problem, and that is what I think we are facing for the last few days. But these are small issues, I think, which will even out over a period of time. I think it's just question of next 10-15 days when these things will get evened out. Definitely, there are certain concerns because when we look at other emerging markets or other Asian markets where closing auction is there, there are around 2-3 things which are very important. One, they don't have weekly options. Second, they have an extremely developed SLBM market. So, because of which the closing auction price variations don't happen in that market. Right now, we have weekly options on indexes, and we even have expiries where physical deliveries happen. So these are the two very big concerns right now for Indian markets with closing auctions.
Okay, Manjiri, so therefore from that perspective, liquidity is something that everyone's spoken about. But are there any other tweaks that you think need to be brought about? Because there are several that are being circulated at this point. And as we understand it, brokers have met with the regulator. In your opinion, what needs to be done to make this more palatable, more efficient?
So if you look at it, around 3,34,000 crore is kind of an arbitrage fund which works in Indian markets, and these are the participants who just can't participate in closing auction because they are liquidity providers for the market. To a great extent, they have to simultaneously do both the legs, and with cash getting closed before and FNO still continues till 340. They somewhere can't participate in this. And that is where I think that is one little problem which happens because of the liquidity issues happening there. Again, this closing auction is extremely good for the passive funds which needed. So whatever you do, the VWAPs will never be able to match the closing price. You can never match the VWAP because generally the way it was happening earlier, in the last half an hour, you can have a big trade which comes in and that would change the VWAP price altogether. So at no point of time you can actually match the weighted average price on which the indexes used to close. So closing auction is a good move, but the price variation and liquidity becomes an issue there.
Yeah, it's a good point that you raise. And we've seen the way that closing NAVs for arbitrage funds have also moved. It's quite interesting to note. So these are, I guess, you can call them. You have a
point. I have one final question, though, and Manjiri, which is simply this: that if you could, if the SEBI chair was listening right now, and if you could recommend one tweak or one change that should be done to this to make it more efficient, you've spoken about 2 or 3 in response to this. If there was one key thing, what would that be?
One key thing I would look at is maybe to a certain extent little bit narrow the range because that can little bit help with the massive volatility. I think it's very interesting. I would like to point out that today's BSE expiry, weekly expiry.
Yes.
And the option sitting today as of now is around 8 lakh crore notional on weekly options. And if you look at last 3 days closing auction volume on BSE is 10 crores. BSE, the entire day volume is 10,000 crore and last 15 minutes volume is around 10 to 12 crore. Today it might be 50 crore, but a 50 crore volume is going to define 8 lakh crore of closing. How can you actually manage this? How can we even think about it? Yeah. And so the kind of price variations which are happening. So the most important thing which we have to look at is that we have physical delivery of futures during expiry. So you will have a lot of options which you think will close in the money, but they happen to close out of the money and you don't have stock to deliver. Right?
Wow.
That is a very, very big problem. So overall, if you go to see during the weekly expiries or even during monthly expiries, you have straddles which used to have time decay and they used to come somewhere around 10 to 15 bips of the spot. Right now, the straddles are trading at 80 bips. There is no time decay which is happening, theta decay which is happening, because it has become a black box where the expiry will come.
Yeah, that's
that's one way to put it. All right,
it's like a dark room with your eyes blindfolded. Yeah.
So I'm still not able to understand how a 10 crore or even in NSE, if you go to see the closing auction volume was 1200 crore.
but what's the way around this, Manjiri?
Yeah,
What's the way around this?
I think we need to have a very strong SLPM market which gets developed before we actually get into this, because till you don't have volumes, you really can't play around with expiries, because the F&O market is 100x of what cash market is.
Yeah,
that's true.
So, and as far as someone pointed out on arbitrage funds, I just wanted to make a note on this. The closing price. So when the arbitrage funds NAV is calculated, you look at the closing price of. So arbitrage funds is definitely, they are long stock and short futures.
Yeah.
Now, if your NAV gets mapped to long stock, which is closing at around 90 bips higher compared to futures, you will always show a gain of 70 to 80 bips on arbitrage funds, but that's not something which can get realized.
Yeah,
because your cash price is getting closed on your closing auction price, whereas futures are not mapping the closing auction price. The futures are absolutely trading where it was trading at 315.
Wow.
And that is the price variation you will see in weekly options and monthly options. So, like last weekly expiry of Nifty, you will see that the weekly options were random.
True.
But the second week option and monthly options were actually trading at a price of 350. They were just not known.
Manjiri, we invite you to the studios. It'll be great to do this maybe a week or 2 weeks later, wherein we can actually make a set of problems currently with this system and what the simple solutions could be. I mean, the whole SLBM system getting developed is probably some time away, but be that as it may, at least there are simple solutions. But it's fantastic talking to you today. Thank you so much and giving us an experienced hand view of what is currently going on. Really appreciate your time.
Thanks a lot. Thank you. Nice talking.